thought it was probably more of a comment than a question in terms of you asking me whether that reflects his the importance that he places on the issue. I can't actually speak for
it was
the
federal
the federal
responsible for
right.
aviation.
Okay, so what I can say is on the 3 points, you clearly know a lot more about this topic than I do. On the 3 points that you mentioned, they all sound eminently sensible, and I would be advocating for those, and I would support them. I also think, as a Kensington resident, I feel your pain. You know, we go through Spring Racing Carnival every year, and I feel your pain in terms of the aircraft noise. I know that a lot of it has to do with also, you know, fairly wealthy individuals flying the helicopters down the Yarra to the heliport, and you know, that clearly needs to be better regulated. I will say two other things very quickly. Firstly, you know, we have under a Labor government, we'll have a Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, who, if you read his autobiography, has taken a very active role in fighting aircraft noise in his own electorate. So I think you'll get a very sympathetic hearing there. And look, the other point that I'll make is, as I can said in my opening, the livability of this area, the commercial focus of the CBD will change. Workers are not going to be working 5 days a week in the CBD, and this will affect the surrounding areas as well. There needs to be, if we're to revitalise our CBD and surrounding suburbs, we need to have a greater emphasis on livability and amenity, and those issues will come to the fore more, and we will need to put more emphasis on the livability and amenity for local communities and local residents. Whereas in the past there has been more of an emphasis on, you know, corporations and commercial property, and that needs to change if we're going to revitalise the city.
Thank you. Anybody else that wanted to speak to that matter? Adam, then well done.
Thanks. The answer to the question is yes to all three, and I've introduced legislation to Parliament to give effect to some of that. There's actually three things that could be done now that would alleviate some of the problem. One is to go back to the old rules where joy flights or tourist flights were required to fly along the Yarra and couldn't come in and do the loops around the MCG or around sites. That can be done through a change to a thing called the visual flight guides, and that's in part how they fix the problem in Sydney. That doesn't actually require a change to the law. It requires the agencies to be on board with just saying, if you want to do a leisure flight, here's the route to do it, right? And that would alleviate a lot of problems. Second thing that would fix a lot of it is that a lot of the circles that are being done are people who are getting up their training hours to get their licences, taking off from Essendon, sometimes from Moorabbin, but mainly from Essendon. They get clearance from their traffic control to come in and do a loop of the MCG or a couple of loops, then go out again. You just change it so that they don't have to do that you prohibit them from doing that anymore. Thirdly, with respect to the big jets, just change and review the flight points and go back, I think, although it might be more complicated than this, where they come in over the bay rather than the point over here just over IKEA. I've had the Deputy Prime Minister and the head of Air Services Australia in a room, put this all to them. The head of Air Services Australia says, and this goes to the point about capture, just says, well, look, who are we to restrict the rights of planes to fly wherever they want to fly? That's what we've got to change. Exactly. Bruce?
Okay, I'm still voting for him.
Thanks for the question. I'm afraid I'm not an expert on
Labor.
But I do live in the city, in the CBD, and so I'm an expert on noise. And we've got car alarms going off and trucks backing up at 3 in the morning and work going on at all hours. And what we really want in our economic system is for pollution, including noise pollution, to be taxed, with penalties for these things, so that the Commonwealth is protected and compensated for anybody who would damage it by polluting.
Who's he? I don't know who they are.
Local
Socialist.
Earlier, because as a new party, a lot of you would be unfamiliar with what we stand for, but I was pleased to read the submissions from the East Melbourne group, including about the flight paths, and it resonated for me that there is a similar issue that I'm aware of in the northern suburbs as well. And for socialists, the question of putting the community before corporations is a touchstone issue for us, and so there was nothing inordinate about the eminently sensible things that the group has been advocating for, including compensation and practical measures like noise proofing people's houses that are affected, although I think the bigger issue about, the flight paths needs to be addressed in the sorts of practical ways that Adam has suggested. And, for us, it goes back to running the sorts of community campaigns that highlights and brings awareness to these issues so that they can't be ignored, and we will use our platform to try to support those sorts of resident-driven campaigns.
The answer to your 3 questions, you would have my support. And on top of that, I will even go further than that. I will request a Royal Commission.
Oh, we
There is
don't.
an independent inquiry
More commission.
what happened to Dan Andrews. Nothing. I back. What happened? Anybody know? Nothing. He's a Teflon, okay? And Dan Andrews, nothing sticks to him. What's happened to Victoria? Nothing sticks. If I can stick a sticky tape on him, I will do it. Okay? Now, Royal Commission is the only way to do it. There's a lot of power in the hierarchy, in the equine business.
Royal
You
Commission.
need answers. You're sick and tired. All the people are sick and tired of planes. I live in Docklands. I also feel it. So you've got my support. More than happy to talk to you later on. If I can help you, if I can do anything, your name is Matt. More than happy to take your case all the way like I am. If I do win, I'm asking for Royal Commission for current MPs, state and federal. Please explain every single thing they've done for the last 2 to 3 years. We, as a public, Australians, want answers.
Thank you. So, Luke, who have we got next? Sue Hamilton looks like she's got a hand up. We'll get a microphone for you, Sue, if that's okay.
I suppose my question is mainly here, although I'd be interested in some of the other smaller parties also answering. Here, you're probably aware, looking at the numbers from booths around the state or around the electorate, that you're in one of the most conservative areas at the moment of the state. What do you think would be the one thing you would say to fairly conservative voters in this room that might make them vote for you?
Well, the Labor Party is a mainstream party, so we are a centrist party, and that's why we're party of government. I would also say to you, look, and you have a desire to keep the Greens out of Parliament, and voting for me is
Labor. Yeah. It's Adam, and that's what he just said.
Thanks. Here, Jackie, and then James.
I'm Jackie Watts, and I'm very much interested in what perhaps each of the candidates have to say about heritage protection, because I know Keir mentioned just before that he's prepared to stand up and bring reform to Parliament in relation to the primary act responsible for protecting heritage across this nation. I want to know whether you would all agree with Keir, first of all, and also whether you would, what do you think about creating a dedicated ministry of heritage? Some of the audience may not be aware that currently in Australia, the reason heritage is going backwards is because it's subsumed into agriculture, water and the environment. I defy anybody to go onto the website and you'll see that the H word doesn't crop up for a very long way into that particular website. So what I want to know is, are you going to stand up for heritage? I've identified one way of doing it, which is a ministry for heritage, and another way of generating more funds, a heritage lottery. Now, clearly we've got one candidate who's agreed that he will commit to a review of the Act. What else can all of these people say to defend heritage in this most important
Leah?
area of interest in this community?
Thanks for the question, Jackie. We'll start with you then.
I don't, well, I'm happy to go first, but I mean, well, as Jackie said, I will the Act. I'll also say we don't do heritage particularly well in Australia. Even when we talk about heritage, people think about heritage of the built environment. They're not thinking about, pre-European heritage. They're not thinking about our industrial heritage, our economic heritage, our cultural heritage. All of these things are incredibly important. So I think it makes perfect sense to have a dedicated ministry looking after those things. We don't do them well. Maybe it's because we're a young country, or maybe it's because we want to erase aspects of our past. But I think it's vitally important, and we should have a dedicated ministry.
I think the ministry is a great idea. We've tried to get the minister agitated over issues around planning in areas, for example, around Carlton Gardens, where there's meant to be a heritage plan in place, given it's a World Heritage listed site. And the minister had no idea what we were talking about when we said, can you tell us how this particular development on Nicholson Street is going to impact on the World Heritage Management Plan? They had no idea what we were talking about. And so I think any focus that can be brought to bear on that is critical. Secondly, I think one of the things that we should do, and I've done this together with East Melbourne Group, is in our submissions to the, or my submissions to the review of the environment protection legislation, is to include human amenity, or what's called human amenity, as one of the factors that needs to be considered when there are big developments that are taking place. So to broaden it out, so that would ultimately encompass things like aircraft noise as well. But livability, what we might all call livability, and what text uses human amenity, should be one of those things that's required to be protected as well.
Yep.
I don't have Jackie, I don't have an informed view about whether a ministry is a good idea or not. I understand, it's not my special subject area. We're very, and not just through politicians, but through deliberative bodies and consultative bodies, and people need to feel like they can protect their environment and protect where they live, and have a say in how things are run. And we've got away from that at all levels of government.
Yeah.
Of bringing people together to think about and make decisions about how they live.
In the discussions about heritage, I often think about the green band.
You had enough?
Has been
Yeah, I think so.
because of the action that.
What have we? I would vote for him or for him.
Like the Victoria.
I probably.
Markets, for example, Parkland in Carlton.
Who's the Liberal guy?
And so I think campaigns that are community driven, where the residents and people using the area identify sites that are important to them.
I won't vote for the guy who's the
supported and a
Clive. Is it a Clive Palmer?
Certainly do that. We're not going to be able to have an impact on the organisation of cabinet and ministries. So that's why I don't particularly address that. So my mind is how to address it as a party that supports community campaigns. And so to return to the point about the green band, that also means supporting or abolishing anti-trade union legislation that makes it illegal now to take industrial action in defence of non-economic issues, and it's because of that that our unions are much more muzzled in being able to support campaigns like that.
Thank you. And yes, I definitely would support that. It's a great idea, and I can't believe that it hasn't been already introduced, or even as a subcategory of an existing portfolio ministry of science and heritage protection. Something like that would be good. Again, I'd be more than happy to put you in touch with a senator or something like that that could able to take that to Parliament. In the Liberal Party, that would be a very easy thing to internally advocate because a lot of people in the Liberal Party are conservative. And in conservatism, we actually like to protect our history and our and heritage as well, and that comes naturally with heritage. So yes, I will support you, and yes, I think it's a great idea. And regardless of this election outcome, I would still be happy to help you and progress that idea.
Yes, I'm more than happy to support you, and also probably launch an independent inquiry on the heritage. My parents came here in the 40s and 50s, and what they've seen to date is basically our heritage is going downhill. Over where they lived in every other country, there's a lot of heritage. There's a lot of history, not just for us, for our kids, our grandkids, and our great-grandkids. So I'm more than happy to advocate for you and go all the way to support you so you can achieve what your outcome will be. So more than happy to talk to you after the meeting and basically put a submission to the relevant people. Thank you.
I couldn't, it sounds like a good idea. I just took the microphone to take this opportunity to agree with Colin Bolger. It's not too often we're going to agree, Colin. But I think historically, Jack Mundy and the PLF, who were, Jack was a communist and radical in many ways, but needed that radical activism to save some of our heritage. So put on the collar.
Colin and I can agree.
James, I believe, is next, and then we'll go to some other questions. James Cambridge, yes, yours? James, I've got to take to the microphone so everybody can hear you.
Question to ask